Welcome, everybody, to the Soul of the Unexplained. I am your host, Jim Kelgard. That's right, Jim with two M's. Why? Well, just seemed like a good idea at the time, I guess. I don't know. Anyhow, folks, welcome to this brand new episode that we have. And we are joined tonight by always our rock star cast. And we sadly don't have one of our members with us. That would be Mr. Roger Stokes, who's still feeling a little under the weather. So, Roger, we want to send out our best wishes and hopes for a speedy recovery for you. We're definitely going to miss you for this episode. But let me introduce the panel that we have that are rock stars in their own right, beginning with my favorite Denver Broncos fan. That's right, Mr. John Nyberger, the greatest bass player to ever grace the stage of Phenomicon. John, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. And that is technically true, which is the best kind of correct. Technically correct.
No half-truths there. No half-truths,
right.
Man.
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing awesome, and I got to commend your Broncos. They're still doing great, and I'm a little worried because my Raiders are playing the Chargers today, and I know they're going to lose like crazy. But right now, the AFC West is firmly in control of your Broncos, and that's got to be a good feeling, right?
It is, but it still worries me. I don't like it. I mean, I like it, but
anything
we'll see what happens.
Can go wrong usually will, right?
That's kind of how I feel. Yeah. And anytime they're on like if they're the only game on, it seems like they always do worse. So today also has me worried. Sunday Night Football, it's gonna be hard to watch.
I can definitely relate, my brother. And of course, we have to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Stratton. Johnny, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You're too kind. I'm definitely no rock star, though. I will have to correct you there. But I can pretend. I can play one on TV.
That's okay. I'm not really a musician, but I play one on the internet, and I play one really well. Some would say anyway. I don't know. Most people probably would disagree with that, but I digress. And Johnny, you are still a rock star as far as just the person that you are. So you are a rock star in other ways, despite not being as musically inclined as the rest of us. So don't ever sell yourself short on that. You are truly a rock star, my brother.
Well, I appreciate it.
And you're wearing that cool rock star shirt, the Dragon Security shirt, man.
I know. This is the favorite thing I came home with from Phenomicon this year. So I got one of the last ones out of his truck.
I know. I didn't get one, and now I want one.
Yeah, me too. It's a hell of a lot better than the gift I came home with from Phenomicon.
What, being a Raiders fan?
A little thud on the head never hurt nobody except for you. I mean,
Right?
A little bump on the head.
Yeah, a little bump on the head. Well, what little I still had functioning up there has been functioning even less for the last 2.5 months or so, but that's beside
I turned out fine. I was dropped on my head countless times as a baby.
On concrete, though?
Same.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
So that's why we get along so well. We share that in common as well. That's good.
I got hit in the head with a log once, so that wasn't fun. So yeah, maybe that is a commonality here.
How is your ex-wife doing, by the way?
Oh my God.
Sorry. Oh, it's getting shots fired. Shots fired.
Lord, help us. We've already gone off the rails.
Yes, we have.
There were never any rails.
Alrighty, well, let's get down to business, folks. And first of all, folks, I would love to extend a sincere gratitude and appreciation for everyone that watched our last video regarding the age of disclosure, wherein we offered up a review and discussion that actually took 2 full days to complete because we were joined by the amazing team over at the J-Free 906 podcast. Our very dear friend Jeff Freeman and Mike Owen. Speaking of rock stars, those are 2 other rock stars that I think very highly of. And so we had a really great, lively discussion on both of those days that we did it, and ended to get connection with a lot of people out there that seemed to enjoy what we had to say about it. And a lot of people agreed with us, and there were a couple that disagreed. And so what I thought we would do today, folks, is kind of just we're a little over a week now since Age of Disclosure has been out on Amazon and has been showing in select theaters in New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. And so I thought we'd kind of talk about some of the positive feedback that we've heard about Age of Disclosure, and then of course let's also be fully transparent and talk about some of the more prominent criticism and some of the notable personalities that had a bone to pick with a few of the things that were mentioned in the Age of Disclosure. So, to begin with, where I'd like to start, and John, I know you've done some checking on this, but um, usually the Weaponized podcast, which of course features Jeremy Corbell and our dear friend Mr. George Knapp. The Weaponized podcast, they did a feature on it shortly after the film was released, and there was a criticism that came out from Jeremy Corbell, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was him, and he was basically saying that he was disappointed that specifically Lou Elizondo and Jay Stratton did not mention AAWSAP at all during the Age of Disclosure, and that it kind of, in his eyes, in Jeremy Corbell's eyes, it kind of perpetuated this bit of misinformation that the $22 million allocation that Senator Harry Reid and Senator Inouye and Senator Ted Stevens were responsible for setting up was AATIP and not AAWSAP. Now, obviously, being big fans of what goes on with Skinwalker Ranch and being friends with some of the people, in question, we know what the deal is there. So, John, do you want to kind of help us set the record straight and maybe offer up your 2 cents on the criticism that Mr. Corbell had for that particular aspect of Age of Disclosure?
Absolutely. And, we should say right up front that this is just my impression. This is my understanding. Might be wrong, but as I understand it, I can understand why some people are a little frustrated that there wasn't more clarity in the movie on that topic. And I think the confusion was introduced in multiple locations throughout the last decade or so, including the 2017 news article that talked more about AATIP. I think that caused some confusion. But what we later figured out is that AAWSAP was the actual real program. AATIP was a public nickname for that program. So anytime it was spoken of in public or outside of the confines of the program, they used the term AATIP instead. Presumably because they wanted to keep the real program name secret. So they used AATIP in other, environments. Later, and again, this is my understanding, but later there was an unofficial investigation continued by Jay Stratton, not Lou Elizondo, by Jay Stratton. It was a loose, affiliation of people that he just kind of kept together to continue this investigation. There was a job that needed to be done. No one was officially doing it because there wasn't an official program for it. He kept this group together, and they continued to work the problem as they had time. This was an other duties as assigned sort of thing. Everyone involved had a day job, right? At this point, the AAWSAP was no longer around. They had other things to do. So that there was no official, it wasn't an official program. There was no budget. They just kind of got by with what they could. And I suspect Jay thought, hey, let's just call this AATIP. That was a cool name. Let's just kind of keep calling this group that, But I think that led to a lot of confusion. And then when you have people like Lou Elizondo coming out later, only talking primarily about AATIP, and he's only referring to the later version of it that was this unofficial, loose, grouping. And then even further confusing by saying he was the leader of it and continuing to say that, which is BS. I will say that quite frankly and plainly. It's nonsense and it's a lie. And anyone supporting that, I think, there are people who are complaining. Let's back up a second. We were talking about the Weaponized podcast a moment ago. That was one of the places that this was called out. Now, I think, again, I understand why they might be a little frustrated that there wasn't clarity from the movie. Right. But it's interesting to me that they're frustrated about the confusion when they are indirectly and sometimes directly responsible for perpetuating the confusion by perpetuating the falsehood that Lou Elizondo ran a separate program called AATIP. And I think they do it because they're friends with Lou. I know that they know that this isn't true, but that puts them in an awkward position of like, well, now they've spent so much capital on this Lou story being true. I think that is making it very difficult for them to just, they can't come out and say, well, okay, everything we just told you the past couple of years about this is actually wrong. So, but still, it frustrates me. It makes me, I mean, I don't want to say I question their integrity, but I kind of do. You know, they know the truth of this story and they are perpetuating the confusion. So to then come out and call Age of Disclosure into question for not clarifying this confusion is a little, I'll just say, a little ridiculous. They have the opportunity themselves to clarify this greatly by coming out with what they know to be true. And also, if they wanted additional clarity, they got the phone numbers to the people who can provide the clarity, right? Give them a call, Jeremy and George. You've got them on speed dial if you need to. You know, so it's just a little frustrating. But I hope that maybe provides some clarity and doesn't muddy the waters too much.
Yeah, no, my understanding is exactly what yours is, John, which is to say that AAWSAP, quite obviously, Jay was involved with AAWSAP, but unless I'm mistaken, it was Jimm that ran point on AAWSAP. He was the guy that was the so-called leader of the AAWSAP program, and then just as you said with AATIP, and I'm still not sure what to make of Corbell. Sometimes I absolutely admire his enthusiasm. We need enthusiasm like Jeremy Corbell has. And I think for the most part, he tries to do an honest job. And I absolutely feel the same about George Knapp. I am confused that on this particular issue, that they made such a mountain out of a molehill, as it pertains to Age of Disclosure, because would it have been nice to have Jay or Lou or Hal or somebody mention AAWSAP? Of course it would, but again, this movie is not. It's not made for the guys like us that pay attention to this on a relatively, daily basis, as it were. So this, throwing out all these programs out there for people that literally have no idea what any of this stuff is probably, this probably wasn't the right vehicle, for want of a better word, to bring up AAWSAP. So that's why I think the fact that they saw fit to come out and specifically single out this one particular portion seemed really kind of like splitting hairs. And again, much ado about nothing, making that mountain out of a molehill kind of thing that just, it was counterproductive, counterintuitive to the whole thing, really.
Right.
I mean,
it makes it seem like Dan and Jay and the others in the movie were trying to be deceptive.
exactly.
That's the way it's being painted, and I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah. And
But that's what's
anybody,
frustrating, that alleged people who know these people are kind of
right.
spinning it that way is frustrating.
Yeah, and that quite simply was unfair from where I stand.
Absolutely
It was
agree.
unfair and it was unnecessary. And again, the whole purpose of the film is to start conversations, and obviously this is generating a conversation. So, but again, if they were to make another a follow-up film to this, I would imagine they would go into greater detail and really kind of give the full rundown of the difference between AAWSAP and AATIP. But it just really, it came from a sector of the UAP community that I didn't expect. And, while I'll be a little more diplomatic than you, John, but trust me, the next one I get to be the ugly New Yorker on.
I'm trying. I was trying to hold back. I get a
No,
little
you didn't.
riled
No,
up
no,
about
no,
this.
no.
For some reason,
No.
this topic really grinds my gears. So yeah, I was trying to hold back.
Yeah, no, we don't pull punches on this program. That's one thing that we're known for good or bad, for good and bad, I should say. Usually bad, but that's okay. No, I'm right there with you, especially with the spirit of the point that you're making, John. I agree with your assessment, and when I read and when I watched what the video was, I was disappointed. Simple as that. It's the best way that I can put it, because it was an unnecessary dig. And if they didn't intend it to be that way, then again, live and learn, move
Hmm.
on.
Well, and it
That's
did. Okay, I will
Mhm.
give them maybe a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Not a lot, but okay. I'll temper what I said a little bit, because outside of that particular topic or aspect of the movie, they gave it glowing reviews,
Yes.
and they are like, everyone absolutely must watch this movie, and they were like, stop whining about the cost, pay the money, it's worth it. So from that standpoint, they're like, you know what, that one point aside, this is a must-watch movie. So I'll give them credit for that. And I think you also have to keep in mind that this movie was made over several years. So uh, I suspect that Dan was like, okay, I want to make a documentary on this. This is important, and he just starts reaching out to people. So who are the first people he's going to reach out to? The well-known people, right? He probably
Mhm.
talked to George and Jeremy. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing. He probably reached out to Lou or people at TTSA. I truly do not know, but he was
Yeah.
probably like seeing, okay, these are the people whose names I keep seeing come up. I'm going to reach out to them first. And as he proceeds through the making of the movie, he probably learned things at each step and just made the best documentary he could. Maybe if he started over again now from scratch, it would be a different movie. Maybe in hindsight, he regrets not clarifying some of these topics. But I think, like you
Mhm.
said, maybe this wasn't the venue for it anyway, because the people, I think that this movie's aimed at people new to the topic. The
Yeah.
people new to the topic won't care about the acronyms. They're not going to know about the acronyms. You know,
Yeah.
those of us who did know about them are like, yeah, maybe we wish there had been at least a couple more sentences clarifying it.
Right.
Um, yeah, maybe in the next in part two.
Yeah, part 2 that we're excited for, and
Yeah,
I'm so glad that you mentioned, the fact that and we cannot overemphasize the importance of the fact that at the end of the day, both Knapp and Corbell were extremely praiseworthy of the film as a whole. They are definitely allies. I still consider them allies and advocates for disclosure. So any criticism we offer, we don't, I personally, I have no axe to grind, particularly with George Knapp. I think he's one of the
right.
greatest investigative journalists of our time and of our era, and not just on the UAP issue. I mean, he's a Peabody Award-winning journalist. I mean, that right there says it all.
Yep.
And
I
he's just a cool guy. And
I
Corbell,
agree. Yeah,
yeah,
for the
with
most
with
part, I agree.
and with Corbell, again, I have so much admiration for his level of enthusiasm, the fact that he eats, sleeps, and shits UAP every single hour of every single day. That alone, I think, deserves commendation from my perspective anyway. I don't always agree with the manner in which that he presents some of his stuff, but I don't think it comes from any place other than a. I mean, I don't think he's willfully deceptive. I don't think that he's setting out to cause problems. It's just that it's just his style. Sometimes I have a difficulty with, and it's not as easy for me to wrap my head around as it is with when George Knapp is the one that's presenting ideas and presenting thoughts. But I think overall, I still consider both Corbell and Knapp advocates. They're definitely on the right side, I think, of the whole topic, which is something I can't say for some of the others. And before we move on to that, Johnny, I wanted to give you an opportunity to chime in here if you want to.
Yeah, no, I'm being a man of few words at the moment. No, you guys are absolutely right. with Jeremy and George. I love how sensational Jeremy can get, but sensationalism can also be a bit of a double-edged sword, because it comes down to a little bit about getting the clicks and pointing things out. And at the end of the day, we have to recognize in his case that he's working kind of as the protege under George, and he's still learning. So some of the things that he does and says sometimes are not up to the same standard that George has. I do see him trying. He's getting better. Uh, Ultimately speaking, the AAWSAP versus AATIP, I think it's more of a minor oversight. And I think that really ultimately the distinction between the two programs is rather non-existent. And when just presenting it as AATIP, forgetting the AAWSAP portion, the people who are really involved that understand the situation, they know they're the same program. When you look back at the program files, everything that the people with Latatsky, my dad, Jay, what they developed and documented, they're used in the exact same documents at the exact same times under ATIP and under AAWSAP. And of course, folks at home, whether you know it or not, I'm going to put on my best Micah Hanks for a second. And, AAWSAP, of course, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, versus ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Big words there. And going back to it, one of the biggest things that my father Jay has said is his biggest regret when developing these programs is one letter in ATIP, which was threat. And one of the biggest things that people seem to say is wrong with age of disclosure is the fact that it's presenting this situation with the UAP or extraterrestrials and such as it's a threat. And ultimately speaking, people at the top that developed these programs, that worked under these programs, they recognize it's not necessarily a threat. But how else do people that specialize in national security qualify things that they don't know what they are? The biggest threat is the unknown. And it's really just simple. They're going to identify things as being a threat until they're known not to be a threat.
Exactly. Well said. And that's actually a great segue into the next bit that we're going to discuss here. And that is, of course, Dr. Stephen Greer felt the need to opine on the age of disclosure. And whereas I don't think either Corbell or Knapp intended to be personal when they brought up the whole ATIP OSAP disappointment, Greer, on the other hand, did exactly what I'm about to do, which is he pulled no punches, and he went in for the kill regarding what he thinks about not just the film, but the director, Dan Farah, what he thinks about a lot of the people. Okay, all of the people appearing on film, which of course would include your dad, Jay Stratton, as well as other people that we know really well, like Dr. Travis Taylor, Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, Marco Rubio. I mean, so one of the big things, and anybody that is a longtime subscriber of the Soul of the Unexplained knows how I feel about Dr. Stephen Greer. And for those that don't, I'm going to just real quickly tell you what I think of Dr. Stephen Greer. For starters, I think we all in the UAP community, we owe a debt of gratitude to Stephen Greer for the work that he did early on when he began his disclosure project, right? He was responsible for bringing an awful lot of these legacy cases in particular out into the public forum. And he did so in a very sensible way without an awful lot of sensationalism, just kind of presenting it as here's the facts, here's the documents. Oh, and by the way, I even have some of the people involved in these incidents that are here to offer up their own testimony in person so you can hear it directly from the source, firsthand experiencers. And so that Dr. Stephen Greer, I have nothing but respect and admiration for. And again, he has done so much to bring us to where we are right now. However, and of course that's a however with a capital H, that's not the Stephen Greer that we have in 2025. And it really saddens me to have to say that, because one of the things that helped play a role in getting me passionate about the UAP topic, and one of the things that helped move me from being not at all a UFO guy to being the guy that is very passionate about it that I am right now, was Stephen Greer's Unacknowledged documentary. I absolutely loved that film. I ate it up. I must have watched it at least 2 or 3 dozen times, and I still think for the most part it holds up really well. However, again, after that is when Stephen Greer, I think, for whatever reason, started buying into his own legend, started buying into his own celebrity. And that's always a dangerous thing. Having worked in the music business for most of my life, I've seen what that celebrity ego does to people that start out being well grounded, really, have some modicum of humility, and that seems to have passed Stephen Greer by in recent years. And that is truly, genuinely disappointing to me, because I genuinely liked the guy. I valued what he had to say. And quite honestly, that's no longer the case. What I see from Stephen Greer in recent years is him starting to deviate from just plain out, fact-based, data-driven, testimony-driven, from well vetted testimony from eyewitnesses, from people with direct knowledge, firsthand knowledge of incidents and experiences, to doing things like his CE5. Okay, now I fully realize, folks, don't jump on me for this. I realize that many of our subscribers, many of our friends, are practitioners of this so-called CE5 thing. I don't know the proper term for it, and forgive me, I'm not going to articulate it very well. But he started diving into that, and then he started making all these other documentaries in rapid fire succession that were basically taking the tone of that. Now that the Pentagon, and we're seeing people like Lou Elizondo, and in particular David Grush, and now Jay Stratton, people that we know were directly involved in the government's investigation and research into UAPs. I mean, Jay Stratton was the director of the UAP task force, for heaven's sake. And yet Greer is painting all of these guys as grifters. And that's like one of the favorite words that gets bandied about by all of the people out there that just want to throw a wet blanket on everything and say it's all bullshit, it's all nonsense. There's no evidence, and until they provide evidence, I'm not going to believe anything. Well, Greer, tying back into your point that you made a moment ago, Johnny, one of the things that he likes to harp against is the fact that Lou Elizondo, in particular, when Lou was pretty much the most prominent and only guy of his resume quality, we could say, when he was the main guy that was out there before Grush ever came forward, before your dad went public, Lou was the guy, and Lou was always talking about, in almost every interview he did, he mentioned how UAPs constitute a threat, a potential threat to national security. And Johnny, you enunciated that word threat perfectly. Because, folks, there is a difference between the word threat and the word hostile or hostility. Now, a threat, just to draw a comparison, the car that I have parked in my driveway right now constitutes a safety threat, right? Now, you may say, well, no, Jim, if it's parked in the driveway, then it's not really a threat. Well, if you're somebody who's, walking and aren't paying attention to where you're going, and you walk into my car, is that car not a threat to you because it was in your way? Or what happens if the parking brake fails on that car and the car somehow rolls into the street, into traffic, or into somebody that just happens to be walking down the sidewalk at that point? Okay? The point is, as Johnny said, when you're in a role like Lou Elizondo and particularly Jay Stratton, okay, Jay Stratton, one of the things that he did, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Johnny, but Jay was trained to recognize all manner of aircraft, not just that the United States had in their inventory, but also that our allies and our adversary nations, so that he could identify any aircraft that would be in United States airspace or any other airspace that our country was responsible for paying attention to. So, of course, anytime something comes into your airspace that is doing so with absolute impunity, meaning that it can enter and exit at will. It flies at unreal speeds and is executing all of these insane, seemingly impossible maneuvers in flight. Why would we not consider that to be a threat if the sole purpose of the United States military is to protect the United States, our airspace, our coast, our land? I mean, that's what the military does. These are military guys that do their job really, really well. Okay, Dr. Greer, get that through your head. They do their job really well. And if they weren't doing their job really well and looking at these things as threats, not as hostile actors, okay, because there's a difference. When something becomes hostile, it no longer is a threat. It is now an identified hostile threat, okay? Regular threat versus hostile threat. Obviously, if you can't figure that out, then there's not a whole lot I can do for you, okay? I'm a Raiders fan, and even I get the difference between threat and hostile. And if Dr. Greer can't get that through his educated mind, more highly educated than I am, clearly, then I'm sorry, there's a little bit of willful ignorance going on there, and I can't put it any nicer. So, of course, these things constitute a threat to national security until we figure out what they are. Now, Greer, in his infinite wisdom here, says, well, 80% of these things that are flying around are actually successfully reverse engineered UAPs. Okay, I'd like to know specifically where he gets that 80% figure, because that seems really high. And while I don't doubt that if these reverse engineering programs do indeed exist and have existed, it would make sense, one would hope anyway, that after 80, 90 years, we would have some success in figuring some of this technology out. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. You know, one of the things that Greer has said, and this is where I'm going to make my big point here, and I apologize for talking so much, folks. I really am. But really what it comes down to is that Greer thinks that age of disclosure is a psychological operation, a PsyOp, by the intelligence community to make people believe that UAPs are a threat. In other words, in Greer's words, that UAPs are bad, they're evil, and we should be afraid of them so that we can increase our ability to make war on these UAPs. Now, folks, I have never once heard Lou Elizondo, Jay Stratton, or anybody else say that the main goal, the end goal here, is to declare war on some non-human species, extraterrestrial, cryptoterrestrial, interdimensional, or otherwise. That just has not happened. And if I'm wrong on that, Dr. Greer, then again, show us your proof, because they are a threat. Because until we figure out what they are, where they come from, and most of all, what their intent is, then they have to, by definition, they have to remain in that threat bucket. And hopefully, most people, most of our viewers, most of our subscribers, and most people that have rational thoughts, which again, I realize is rich coming from a Raiders fan, why is it not common sense? I mean, so that's what I take great issue with, because obviously I don't think age of disclosure is at all a psyop. I take particular issue with what Dr. Greer recently had to say about Dan Farah, the director of Age of Disclosure. He levied the accusation that Dan Farah was, quote unquote, not astute as a filmmaker. Now, John and Johnny, do either of you think that that's even remotely true?
Not in the slightest.
No, definitely not.
Not in the slightest. And I mean, I take a look at all the film stuff that Dan Farah has been involved in, uh, previous documentaries, his work on actual Hollywood films, and it's way, way better than anything I've seen Dr. Greer put together with his team. Now, again, I obviously have admitted that I really enjoyed his unacknowledged film, but honestly, Dr. Greer, you are digging yourself a hole that you are not going to be able to get yourself out of. Instead, Dr. Greer, what you come across to me as is you come across a man who's got a really, really bad case of sour grapes, that the media attention is not on you and the work that your organization or organizations are doing. And you're upset at the fact that this really brilliantly put together documentary that is the most sensible documentary that has ever been put together on this particular topic, and the fact that it is getting traction in the mainstream media and in circles where this conversation literally never comes up, and those kinds of people are now paying attention to it, I think that pisses you off, Dr. Greer, and I think that really just really bothers you. And you know what? I hope it does, simply because I hope you learn from this. I hope you learn that just every time somebody comes up and comes out with information that didn't get vetted through you and your organization, that somehow it's automatically a PsyOp and they're automatically grifters. Um, please, no, don't. Just stop. Just stop it, Dr. Greer. I've had enough of it, and I know a lot of other people are getting sick of the constant whining and complaining that you do when somebody else puts something together that is better than anything you are currently or previously capable of doing. And I know that sounds harsh. I know that I'm really kind of letting the punches fly, but it's time. It's time for me to say something about it. And what I will apologize for is the fact that I feel that I have to say it. I'm not going to apologize for what I said or how I said it, because it's honestly how I feel. Now, as John said at the beginning, that's just my opinion. That is Jim Kelgard's opinion. It's not even necessarily the opinion of the soul of the unexplained, because for all I know, neither John or Johnny or Roger agree with me on anything that I just said. But that's just, again, the gospel according to Jim. So I'm just kind of tired about how Stephen Greer is constantly pissing on other people's parade. He can't do, I mean, take a page from James Fox. Okay. Now, James Fox is another guy that I have nothing but respect for. I really like the guy, and I hope I get to meet him someday, just to shake his hand and tell him how awesome I think he is. Okay. James Fox was gracious enough and is magnanimous the right word? I can never tell anymore. But he was gracious enough. We'll leave it at that. He was gracious enough to offer praise and congratulations to Dan Farah and everybody that worked on the Age of Disclosure documentary. Now, James Fox is, for want of a better word, in competition with guys like Dan Farah in this closely contested UAP community. And that's one of the biggest things, and John or Johnny, feel free to chime in here when I tie up my point here and when I'm done pontificating. The but I think that that's one of the things that really muddies the water here in the UAP community, is the fact that so few people are willing to say, okay, yeah, okay, I applaud that guy got okay, that's well-earned success. That's what James Fox did. Okay, be more like James Fox. Be willing to say, yeah, that guy got it right. Those guys, okay, yeah, way to go, well done. Because if we're all truly on the same side with this, if we all truly want disclosure, then why do we have to set up these fiefdoms and these little, you know, little communities, sub-communities and meta-communities within the overall community, and we can't acknowledge that somebody has done something good and praiseworthy? James Fox can do it, and I've seen a number of other filmmakers have done this to offer their praise to Age of Disclosure. But Dr. Greer, oh no, no, fuck you guys. That's kind of how Dr. Greer's attitude is. Because it's not coming through me, then it's bad, and I've got to do everything possible to piss on it and destroy it. And I'm done with it. I'm tired of it, and it needs to stop. And I just hope that things get better. Sunshine
I
and
feel where you're
daisies.
coming from. I feel where you're coming from, Jimm. To back up a little bit to what you were talking about earlier with people in those positions within the intelligence community, especially in air warfare, many of them, but not all of them, but many of them, like my father, are specifically trained in identifying aircraft, identifying threats, and no matter what it could be a Cessna 152. That is a threat until identified otherwise if it's entering your airspace. So automatically, people in those positions, they're going to qualify everything as a threat. Now, this is where I might get myself in a little bit of trouble or hot water, so to speak. My thoughts about Dr. Greer here. So to put it as fine of a point and as short as I can describe it, a person in his sort of position, in his sort of esteemed character, the way that people look at him, he comes off far too much as an intelligence asset, and not in really the good way. We talk about PsyOps, we talk about all that. He talks about that stuff a lot. But the problem is a characteristic of a PsyOp when performed by people like the Central Intelligence Agency is silencing the other side, discrediting the other side. Anything that doesn't come through your organization, that isn't approved through your people that control and pull the strings on what you say and what is out there to public, the job of that person is to discredit and silence. And really, his reaction to Age of Disclosure is nothing short of coming off as if it's a PsyOp and that he is being controlled by some other agency. It completely destroys his level of credibility that he had left. Now, his old works, sure, I respect him a lot. I'll still call him Dr. Greer. He's earned that title. He's earned the respect of people, but he's quickly losing people's respect, especially people that are pretty well into the field. But people who are just coming into it and just starting to learn more about it, they're going to look at him as some kind of an authority because he has all this stuff behind him. But ultimately, I feel like we can't really trust the guy. I'm worried that he's trying to put out a narrative that actually discourages the disclosure because it doesn't come through him. He wants to control that narrative, whether it be just for his own vain sense of celebrity or he's got someone pulling the strings. I would rather it be his vain sense of being a celebrity, but we really can't be too sure in this sort of thing of if a legacy program is utilizing him to put out information in certain ways. We just don't know. And
That's an interesting take.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. And you did it so much faster than I did.
Well,
go
I'm
ahead.
no intelligence expert. Sorry, I'm no intelligence expert. But
Nor
I tell
am
you,
I.
I've been in a room with quite a few.
I'm not even intelligent.
I've been educated by quite a few. I've never been accused of being intelligent, I promise you. But I've been in a lot of places with these people. I've listened to these kinds of people speak. And I've got no official training, but I've spent time learning how do you identify people that are conducting some level of espionage, whether it be, personal, private, or commercial espionage, things of that nature, national security based. It's just an interest. And a lot of people that are in this topic, they come off as they're an asset. And whether it's because they want to seem like they are and they aren't, or they're just a really poor quality asset that has mainstream media attention, that's where we find ourselves in this world.
Yeah.
I want to tie that back into our earlier discussion of George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. Not the intelligence asset perspective, but
You scared me for a second.
no, I don't think. Well, no, George, no, but you never know about Jeremy. But no, what I was going to say is another aspect of Greer is also just his ego. He wants to make disclosure about him as much as it is about disclosure.
absolutely right.
100%.
And that's
ding,
what,
ding, ding, ding.
but that's what bugs me about Jeremy Corbell. He can't go 2 or 3 sentences without saying, I did this, I helped arrange this, I'm working on this program, and I did, listen to his, if he's speaking, at least half of what he's saying is how he is important. He's trying to inject his importance into the topic when he's not important. Maybe the people he knows and the people he's trying to work with are important. He is not important, but for as long as I've known about him, he's made it about him. And that drives me crazy. And that's what Greer has done ultimately. I don't think in the beginning it was that way. When you go back to his original, disclosure project back in, God, was that 2000, 2001?
2001.
The press club, that was amazing. I thought that was great. And I don't think he was trying to make that about him at all. I mean, it was cool that he organized it, and he certainly wouldn't refrain from reminding you that he organized it. But at the time, that version of Greer was pointing at the people, was pointing at the stories, was pointing at the importance of the topic, and actually trying to get disclosure. The current version of Greer is not like that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
To your point, that kind of brings in an aspect of human nature, is when you're not very important and you don't really feel that important, but you're doing things and you're making moves, you have this sense of humility still. But once you've kind of cemented yourself into a position, you feel like there's this grand buildup of your importance and nothing can be done without you anymore. So I feel like that's almost a human nature problem versus just their ego problem. I feel like that's a Lego set of problems where at the base layer of the bricks, they're great. But then you start adding in these different ones as you go, and it starts to get a lack of structural integrity in their character.
Mm-hmm. I get that, because honestly, that you're absolutely right. I mean, and I'll use myself. I'll be a little personal here. I, in the grand scheme of things, I am not important to this topic in any way, shape, or form. I know some people who I think are very important to this topic. And it's very easy. Yes. Well, of course I'm referring to you, but it's very easy when in discussions to other people to try to I know these people, that makes you feel important just because you are adjacent to someone who's important, right? But that's a human nature problem. And I think we all kind of fight that. So I get it. I could see anyone succumbing to that. If you're really interested in a topic, you start investigating it, you start meeting these people, and you start, like in Corbell's case, building a network of people who are all like actual movers and shakers on this topic. I could see how that could affect your ego, and I think he had an ego to begin with. So I think it's just feeding into it.
You're right.
I think that's my worry, is he's going that direction.
The viewers here would realize I say something very often. I am a Stratton. I am not the Stratton. That is my position in this topic. I'm involved. I'm a big fan of the stuff. I pay attention, but I'm not the guy.
Well, see,
I'm a guy.
I am not a Jimm. I am the Jimm.
So. You are. If you with 2 M's, you are the Jimm.
I am the Jimm with 2 M's. Yes, sir. Only.
I'll just start saying Jimm.
Jimm.
Man that puts the in Jimm.
Yeah, baby. So yeah, no, you both make an excellent point on that regarding ego and personality. I mean, I encounter it all the time in the music industry. And it's to an extent, it's only human nature to want to be able to say, if it ever comes up in conversation, if the band OMD ever comes up in conversation, right, then more often than not, depending on the tone of the conversation, I'm going to mention the fact that I'm personally connected with the various members in the band and that I'm good friends with one of the band's founders. But as a general practice in my everyday life, that's not something I go about talking about. I don't brag about it because most people honestly don't care about name dropping, because a lot of times, more often than not, name dropping comes off as, kind of, conceited and
Arrogance.
arrogant and mildly insecure, right? People that are constantly doing it, right? Now, when it comes to accomplishments, though, like what you were saying with Corbell John, he has achieved some pretty cool things, and he's done some cool things. But yes, there does appear to be at times where it's like, okay, Jeremy, we know, we know. Yes, good for you, good job, good job. Yep, gold star for you. But yeah, there are some people that it becomes a little bit too much too often. Um, I don't see that with George Knapp. I mean, you never hear George talking about himself. You never hear George talking about how he's won, all these various awards and
He
and
doesn't name
whatnot.
drop either.
He doesn't
Like
he
he'll,
doesn't
he'll
need
mention a name when it's
exactly.
relevant, but he's not
ex-
name dropping to make him seem more important.
Exactly. And that's again goes back to a point that I've made many times previously on the show here, is that you can tell the most about a person's character by the way they carry themselves. And I think, again, the greatest example of that in this particular topic of discussion is Jay,
Jay Stratton.
Mother effing Stratton. You know, Jay is not at all like somebody like Dr. Greer, for instance. Okay, Dr. Greer is all about, hey, look at what I did. Let me tell you about all these amazing things that I've accomplished and how I am the arbiter of all things pertaining to disclosure. If it doesn't come through me, then don't take it to the bank. I mean, that's Dr. Greer. And with Jay, by contrast, this is the first time that we've seen Jay Stratton go in front of a camera and talk as openly and matter-of-factly about the things that he himself was directly involved with in an official capacity as a member of various government and intelligence organizations. So that automatically, to any reasonable, rational person, is going to carry more weight than somebody like Dr. Greer saying, "Oh yeah, well, this, and this, yeah, I did that. We know about that because it was me that brought it out." And after a while, that gets to be like, "Oh, great, here he goes again." And it's just, it's really hard for me to not be anything other than just really frustrated and sick of the kind of stuff like that, when there are so many other people that are not taking that approach to bringing all this stuff out for people to know. And yeah, so both completely agree with the points that both of you made on that. So anyhow, that's I think we beat the dead horse there with Dr.
Are you
Greer,
sure?
and
Because I could
we
go on.
well, so could I, but I don't want to turn this into a dog pile, at least any more than it already has.
Right. And I'm trying to stay
Because I
professional.
and yes, and I don't want to portray myself as somebody that likes to take pot shots at people that I disagree with, because most of the time I don't. Most of the time I'll just grumble about it privately, and but this is one instance where I think a prominent personality like Dr. Greer is doing more harm to the overall disclosure process than he is doing good. And that's probably the most succinct way that I can put it. So, but let's just kind of tie up the negativity that's going on with the release of Age of Disclosure by just simply, what are some other, criticisms that either of you have heard from people that have seen the film and that have posted about it? Anything other than the two main areas we've covered thus far?
I think the biggest one I've heard is like, well, there's two that are similar. They're related. One is, well, there's nothing new in it. We already knew all this stuff. Sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
The people who have been following this probably didn't hear a lot new, other than hearing it directly from these people so unequivocally saying, not oh, they're not even hinting that this stuff might be real or hinting at these programs. They're coming out and saying, this stuff is real. These programs exist. We really wish we could tell you about them. That's honestly what they're saying, is we want to tell you about them. We can't until the government is forced to disclose this, right? So, but the related kind of negative that I hear is that, like, where's the evidence? Well, you're not going to get the evidence. I think that's a misplaced expectation. No one should have been expecting them to roll out, the actual documentation and the classified secrets in this movie. That's absurd. The point of the movie is to make this known to the public who don't normally follow this, to eventually put pressure on government and get them to create laws where necessary, or to get the executive branch to declassify some of this and get it out in front of the public. That's the goal. This is what, if you're a hardcore UFO nerd and you live and breathe this stuff, yeah, you probably didn't hear anything that you didn't know before, but it wasn't for you.
Right. No, perfectly said. Johnny, how about you?
Honestly, I haven't been getting very much negative feedback. Now, granted, I haven't found a whole lot more than what we've already discussed as far as online, but I don't think many people are going to come up to me and give me negative feedback. That's kind of, it's kind of hard for people to have the cojones, the huevos to just, oh, hey, there's a Stratton. Let me go tell him about how dumb his dad is and those people on that movie. It hasn't happened. Everyone who I've talked to, which I've actually been amazed that some of the people that have come up to me and talked to me about this, that I didn't have any idea were into the topic, they weren't really into the topic, have told me about watching it. So, that's more of a positive than a negative. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, and my experience has been the exact same. And the negative criticisms are exactly what John called out. Number one, it's where is the evidence? This is all stuff we've heard before. So where's the evidence? And I agree. At some point, the evidence does need to come out, but saying that all of this was all stuff that's been revealed before, well, I disagree with that, because there was stuff in this movie that I had never heard before, or more importantly, I had never heard from the people that said it, and that cannot be overstated, the importance of it, because the just again the matter of fact manner and the frankness in which so many of the people that were on camera talked about the things that they were directly involved with or that they knew of. Um, how can anybody not look at that and say, wow, that was impressive? And to your point, Johnny, about the fact that, all the praise, I have to say that in almost every instance, now I'm going to brag about one thing here. So as of right now, Age of Disclosure is still the #1 movie purchased on Amazon. And it's been over a week now since
Ever.
Age of Disclosure has been out, and it's still #1. So I'm really happy for Dan Farah and the other folks that were responsible for bringing this brilliant documentary into being. But at last count, I'm responsible for right around 15 to 16 people buying that movie, just strictly off of the fact that I'm going to admit, folks, I'm a huge cheerleader for this movie, and I'm not ashamed of the fact. I openly admit to that, and I'm proud of that fact, because I think that this movie is the single most important documentary, the best directed, the best organized, and the best executed documentary about this particular subject that has ever been brought forth. And the reason I say that is, like Johnny said, I'm finding out I have friends and colleagues that I had no idea had even an inkling of an interest in this. And they've since talked to me over the last week saying, Jim, I went ahead and I bought that movie strictly off your recommendation, and they're like, "You didn't say enough about how impactful it was gonna be." They're like, "I had no idea that any of this stuff was going on. I had no idea that we're looking at these, potential scenarios with the various things that were brought forth in this film." And then those people told me about how they've passed it along to members of their family and their circle of friends. And so it becomes this kind of snowballing effect. And, you know, I, I think that's exactly the hallmark of what a truly great film is when it starts spreading by word of mouth. And when you start seeing, the mainstream personalities in the media like Jake Tapper on CNN, Brett Baer on Fox News, Bill Maher on HBO. Okay, these are guys that have tremendous followings. Okay, doesn't matter what side of the political aisle, what political ideology you subscribe to, this is getting universally positive coverage. I mean, CBS News, for instance, did a fantastic piece on Age of Disclosure a couple of days ago. CBS News, okay? Um, Now, News Nation, to be fair, has always been very favorable in their coverage towards anything UAP related. And it's been no different this time around. They've been on the ball, they've been at the forefront of really bringing out any UAP news anytime it comes out. So that's one thing that I do admire about News Nation. But now we're starting to see CNN, ABC News, CBS News, some of the, talking heads like Bill Maher. Um, I'm going to paraphrase what Bill Maher said when he had Dan Farah on recently, but it was something to the effect of, in the past, anybody who brought up this topic was considered to be fringe, right? Bit of a wacko. And now it's like if you aren't talking about it and aren't taking it seriously, now you're the person that's fringe and that maybe you're the wacko who's not willing to say, okay, maybe there really is something to all this after all. So, to that end, I think Age of Disclosure has been wildly successful. And again, I personally, admittedly, am very biased. So take whatever I have to say in praise with a grain of salt. For those of you that are more skeptical and neutral on the whole topic, but I think the film is exactly what it's set out to be, which is a conversation starter where it is laying the groundwork for people that maybe this is their entry into the whole topic of taking it seriously. People that in 2025 are where I was in 2017 when the New York Times article came out. And to that end, the importance of that is is huge. And I think mission accomplished to Dan Farah and the team that put Age of Disclosure together. I think it is a damn near flawless film as far as the subject matter that it tackled. I don't see how it could be much better unless we get a part two, right? and and maybe get that 4-hour director's cut. That would be awesome. I'd be all over that. But pretty much across the board, everybody I know, particularly the people that accepted my invitation on social media to buy it or rent it, every single one of my friends and family members that did it, they all universally were as blown away as I was when they watched it. And I don't think that's a surprise because of truly how impactful and how well and solid of a film the Age of Disclosure is. Final thoughts from you guys on Age of Disclosure.
Yeah, I've been getting lots of positive reviews from it, including more than once. I've lost track of how many times, but people have told me, "Hey, I watched it, thought it was fantastic." I know, and they'll be like, "And I know someone who had her husband watch it, and he was a skeptic, and after he watched it, he was like, wow, holy crap, this
Yeah.
is way more serious than I thought." That's the intended audience, so it's working. This message is getting to the people who haven't been paying attention. They're watching this and they're being persuaded that, again, maybe they don't have the evidence, quote unquote evidence that they want, but you've got the credibility of the people in the movie saying that this is a serious issue and we all need to take it seriously, even more seriously than we have been. And as far as it generating water cooler chats and dinner table chats, it absolutely is. We avoid politics in my household, but we did not avoid UFOs in our household.
It crosses a political spectrum. Thankfully.
Same.
Yep.
Yeah. My Thanksgiving dinner conversation was not at all focused on politics. That UAPs did come up, which was quite nice. So yeah, Johnny, how about you? What are your closing thoughts on Age of Disclosure?
Yeah, I'm overall just thankful the way that it's come across and the response from just the public in general. In my professional life, in my career, this is something that really could be looked at that hurts my credibility just because I'm involved or a believer, or, insert all of the ridiculous Sigma-based memes here and the what's oh my God, what's the theme song? I'm blanking.
X-Files?
The X-Files.
Right.
How did I forget that?
Or Twilight Zone?
Twilight Zone, X-Files.
Insert those audio tracks there, but thankfully stuff like this is giving the topic more credibility to where people aren't automatically looking at me as, oh God, this idiot over here, he's gonna wear a tinfoil hat, watch out. It's bringing to light the seriousness of the topic, and that's ultimately the biggest part of Age of Disclosure, is bringing the general public in, getting more awareness out there, getting more people to look at this not as just a bunch of crazy people, but real scientists, real investigators, that this is a real thing. The truth of the matter is, this really truly is the next level of a Manhattan Project type deal for the US government and for everyone across the globe. It's a new age version of the space race to figure out this technology from anything we've retrieved. It's a new age version of the Cold War. It's a big global economic problem as well. So all across the board, I loved the documentary. I'm appreciative of the documentary and appreciative of everyone that is watching our show talking about it, going on the internet talking about it, telling their friends, their neighbors about it. Get the word out. Just great conversations. And I didn't even talk about it over Thanksgiving, really. It came up like maybe less than 5 minutes total of conversation over like 4 hours. So
fantastic.
It was a major topic at my Thanksgiving. Repeatedly.
Well, we're all a bunch of weirdos.
I wasn't always the one bringing it up. Like, my relatives who watched the movie were bringing it up.
Yeah, I actually had a number of people that I'm friends with that reached out to me and said, "Hey, before I even saw your posts on Facebook, I actually saw the Jake Tapper news segment, where I was watching Bill Maher, a week or so ago, and saw his little segment where he brought the director of Age of Disclosure on and was talking about it, and that's what got me interested." And so, and it's really great to see, because most of the people that I've introduced this to, again, are people that maybe at the most had a casual interest in the topic, but have never really taken it as seriously as any of us have. And that's nice to see, because again, that's kind of who the target audience of Age of Disclosure is. And to that end, it is definitely hitting its mark, and nothing but applause and praise for Dan Farah and everybody that played a role in making this documentary come to life. And what I'd like to wrap up with now, gentlemen, just real quickly, is, and this does tie into Age of Disclosure somewhat, is there's one of the big hot things going around on social media is Donald Trump going to be the disclosure president? Now, I don't want to make this political. I don't want to be this whether you love Trump or hate Trump. I just want to simply discuss, do you see Donald Trump, who we've been told is very keenly aware of this documentary and the the claims and allegations that are made in this documentary by very credible people, including somebody in his own current cabinet. His Secretary of State is one of the people appearing in this documentary. So whether or not Trump has actually seen the documentary, I've heard yes and no, but that's beside the point. Do you see Donald Trump at least coming out and saying something to the effect of, well, folks, we're not alone in the universe and we're not alone on the planet? Anything along those lines, any depth of disclosure, do you see Donald Trump at any point between now and the end of his term coming forward and making any kind of a statement like that to the American people and to the world? Because we've heard that, if any nation should get out in front of it, it should be the United States before, say, Putin or Xi in China decides to say anything. So what are your thoughts on that? And John, we'll start with you.
I was going to say, over to you, Johnny.
Like I said, leave politics out of it as much as you can, John. Be nice.
No, I can't. It's no problem. I think I truly don't know the answer to that, but I think having the relationships that Trump has to the people in the movie, particularly Marco Rubio, who is his Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, that's got to make him the most likely candidate to be the disclosure president. And when you take into effect that in the movie they mention that he kind of wanted to do it in his first term, they decided not to because a lack. Maybe they were worried about the impact to our economy and to other aspects of our lives in general. I mean, that's a big bombshell to drop. So you kind of have to really have thought through different aspects of like, what's this going to do to society, to our culture, to our economy? Again, we've talked about this in the previous episode. If you come out with, hey, by the way, there's this energy source that will completely cause our entire energy-based economy to crash overnight because we can generate all this energy for free. Maybe you don't want to, maybe they have reasons for not doing that, right? They're going to have some political pressures and just additional issues that they have to work through. But now that you've got this movie out there putting additional pressure on Congress and on maybe Rubio and some of the other people in the movie, and we know they have other channels. We know people in the movie have other channels inside the current administration. They're getting their message up to at least the level below Trump. If it's making it up to Trump, I have no idea. And we can keep politics out of it. Keep the other. There's these conspiracy ideas, or not conspiracy, but the idea is that yes, of course he's going to want to run with this because he wants to distract from other stuff.
Right.
Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. To some extent, it's irrelevant. I don't know if he's the disclosure president, but he's the closest we've ever had, I think.
Excellent points. Johnny, how about you?
I would love to see Donald Trump be the disclosure president. I feel like we don't have enough time with him left in office to realistically make it happen. I feel like this is going to have to go through all levels of congressional hearings. It's going to have to go through investigations. There's so much bureaucracy built into this that I don't see the president of the United States, regardless of who it is, the president of the United States coming out and giving a formal address discussing this sort of thing and admitting that we are not alone. I don't see any president doing that without it going through so many levels of investigation, of briefings, of just bureaucratic nonsense that it would just have to take. So I feel ultimately, if it's not him, maybe the next president would be the one that could do it. Whether that be, going down the same line, not being political about it, but say we took his vice president, if J.D. Vance then became the president of the United States following him, keeping the same, chain of people in the cabinet, the same involvement, I feel like that would be a lot more realistic based just on the time aspect of what it's going to take, because this stuff does not happen overnight. AAWSAP, AATIP, the UAPTF, I mean, we're talking about, 15 total years of work? And we're
Right.
only just now starting to be coming out and talking about that sort of stuff. So I feel it's going to be a slow process before we get to the point where we see a president openly discussing this and making an address to the world that we are not alone.
Also, excellent points. My easiest answer that I can give is similar to what John's answer is, and that is, I don't know. I can easily see Donald Trump maybe making a statement like this because, let's be honest, whoever becomes the quote unquote disclosure president, that's going to forever cement their legacy, right? Being the world leader that comes out and makes that, monumental announcement, that's the kind of thing that somebody like Donald Trump would dream about, regardless of how the rest of his administration goes for the second term. Coming out with something like that would be a guaranteed home run. Not without its challenges, though, as both of you said, because this is not. I don't think it's that easy that he could just come out and say, "Well, guess what, folks? As illustrated in the excellent documentary Age of Disclosure, we are in fact not alone in the universe, and we are not alone on planet Earth." Um, I think just simply saying that on the surface seems innocent and innocuous enough for him to be able to get away with it, but the reality is far more complicated, right? And like you said, we talked about this in previous episodes where there is a certain segment of society that is going to have an off the charts ontological shock when if somebody like a President Trump comes out and makes a statement like that, because there are some people that their worldview, something like this just simply isn't built to accommodate it. And it's going to completely, fly in the face of everything they believe. I mean, we've seen people responding. We had a comment or two in our last video where people were still saying, "No, you're wrong. It's demons. It's all demons. It's got to be demons."
And
And
I've seen that since then too,
yeah, and
multiple times.
And again, folks, I 100% respect your position. If that's your belief, you are entitled to that belief, and nobody can take that away from you. But I also have my own right to believe what I believe, and I believe that that particular train of thought, that particular philosophy of these things being demons that are out to, do Satan's work, I believe that is just, it's not the case. It's not at all what we're dealing with. Now, is there certain instances where this phenomena does display malevolence of some kind? But I would say maybe there's been some instances where people have been hurt, but how much of that was done with direct intent to harm or injure or kill somebody? And I think that's a more difficult question to answer. So I think there's still going to be a great deal of ontological shock for some people that come along with this. But I think more likely, guys, the most likely response, if Trump were to hold a press conference tomorrow, okay, and make that at least the acknowledgement that we're not alone and that we're not alone on this country, on this planet, and that we've recovered craft from somebody that's not human, I think the majority of people would be like, "Oh, okay, cool. Finally, we're getting acknowledgement of that." But that still doesn't change the fact that I'm, paying almost $4 a gallon for gas, or that I'm still paying ridiculous costs for literally everything, and that's just the harsh reality for most people, and rightly so. We can't pretend that the sun rises and falls on this issue, because it doesn't. For the overwhelming majority of people in the world, it still is about, how do I get through my day? How do I afford the basics, like, a roof over my head, and how do I pay all my bills? And people that have that deal with family members or loved ones that are sick or dying. I mean, that's reality for those people, and we can't expect to take away their focus on those things that matter to them just because we happen to be excited and passionate about the notion of this becoming, you know out in the open, broader knowledge for everybody. So I think I can see Donald Trump wanting to do it, and I think he does want to do it. I think he's got a lot of people this time in his camp supporting him and encouraging him to do it. But as you said, Johnny, how do you strategize something of that magnitude? And that is what remains to be seen, because it's going to be one of the most delicate dances we've ever seen any world leader have to do. And but either way, I think it's coming. But I still wouldn't be surprised if the next big disclosure moment happens from the phenomenon itself. I think the true revealing will happen when the phenomena itself is ready to make that happen, if it ever wants to make it happen. So I'm not going to hold my breath on Donald Trump making an announcement. If he does, I will be pleasantly surprised, and I will applaud the him making the announcement. But I think it's just too complicated of an issue to do that one size fits all, simplistic, simplified approach to it. So that's just my 10 cents on that.
But you
So
also, real quick though, you do have a political aspect. I think one thing that we've all been shocked by is the bipartisan nature
yes,
of this
yes,
topic in Congress. I think as soon as you start asking a president to be the disclosure president, especially in modern society, those presidents are very highly tied to a party, to a worldview, and you will have half the country immediately thinking it's nonsense, no matter who it is, Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. So I think that would be another challenge, is sharing, maybe sharing some credit, and maybe allowing yourself to not be the focal point for that disclosure and allow it to remain apolitical and bipartisan. And does that mean you need someone else to announce it, like as your representative? And if that's the case, I nominate Keanu Reeves or Betty
straight
White.
up on that. Well, we're kind of late on Betty
A
White.
little late on Betty White, but
Can we get Keanu a hat that just says, and I'm sorry for the political joke here, make the Milky Way great again?
what would that?
Hey, Milky Ways are
Manga.
great. In fact, like, I'm going to eat one after we wrap up here.
No.
I like Milky Ways.
You know what hat Keanu Reeves actually needs? He needs a
Soul of the
hitchhiker
Unexplained.
beanie.
Oh,
He needs what?
A
hitchhiker
beanie.
Where can he get
Ooh,
that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If only
So-
such a thing existed and was
Yeah,
available from some website.
Johnny, tell us about how this might be possible.
Yeah, I mean, any of the folks at home that missed us at Phenomicon, that missed being able to see the Hitchhiker Band, now have an opportunity to be able to get their own shirts, their own hoodies, and if you want to match Keanu Reeves, you can get your own Hitchhiker beanie now. We have plenty of hats, shirts, all of that available, and we'll link it down below where you can find this beautiful new store that they're releasing. Excited. I should have worn that shirt today. You know, I love Bryant, but why did I not wear that shirt? I should have done that. Not thinking.
And Jimm should be wearing. Well, we haven't had an opportunity to get them yet, but next week or next episode, whenever that is.
Do we all
Hitchhiker
not
beanie.
have hitchhiker shirts?
I have a
I do.
hitchhiker shirt.
Yeah.
Next time we need
My
to get
wife
better.
has 2 of them, and I only have 1.
Our dear viewers, we apologize because we didn't even think about the fact that we could all match.
Yep.
And
Well,
we
I
can
have a gray
advertise.
one, and now I'm kind of wishing I had a black one. So I
See, I've
think
got the black one.
I'll have to get a black one.
Black
But
But
ones
I need
are
the
available.
beanie because it's really cold outside, and now that I've been doing this, it's far chillier than I thought.
So Johnny, for those of our viewers and subscribers that aren't familiar with what hitchhiker is, just quickly tell them what's all the fuss about with this
Yeah.
hitchhiker stuff.
Yeah, you might recognize a couple names in that band. So Hitchhikers, the band founded by 2 big names that we've mentioned today, Dr. Travis Taylor and my father, Jay Stratton, also featuring our two friends that you can see here in this video with us today, Jimm Kelgard and John Nyberger, of course, and also our absolute favorite brothers, Caleb and Micah Hanks, the Dino Beaver and the man behind the most smooth voice in is it radio? I'm gonna call it radio because
The debrief,
the
co-founder,
debrief is
co-editor of the
fantastic.
debrief. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the debrief is fantastic. I'm gonna call it radio, but
Yes,
they're
indeed.
hopefully
Mike
gonna be
Hanks
releasing
podcast.
their songs soon. We'll see. As you could go find out below, if you check our videos, we recently did an interview with the whole band. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but sooner or later, we're going to see a release of 2 originals. Jimm, why don't you tell us about those? You know more about the music than I do.
Yes, indeed. So we have one song that has actually had a bit of a premiere already, a little snippet anyway, on George Knapp's Coast to Coast AM when our fellow bandmate, Mr. Micah Hanks, was a guest recently on his show. And the song that was composed is an original. It was written by Caleb Hanks, the drummer and multi-instrumentalist in Hitchhiker. And the song is called The Tether, and Travis Taylor does the lead vocals on it. And just, I mean, Travis just absolutely nails the lead vocal on this. The man was born to be a rock singer, and Travis just oozes talent when it comes to music. And so The Tether is kind of a really cool. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what it's undeniably rock. It's hard rock, but of course, you know, it's got some synth action courtesy of me and Caleb. It's got a scorching guitar solo in there by Micah, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun to listen to. And who knows, maybe we can put up a little snippet of The Tether in one of these ads, just so people can get a little teaser of what might be coming soon. And then there's another song that Travis wrote called I Bet They Rock and Roll, which is just classic, you know, in the vein of like Kiss and classic Van Halen, classic Motley Crue. Again, Travis taking lead solo on it, lead vocal on it. A lot of fun. And every time I take the stage with these guys, it is just an absolute honor. I've been performing music for the better part of 3 decades now, 4 decades almost now, and I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with many of my biggest music heroes. And I got to say, the most excited I've ever been performing on stage has been with that gentleman right there, John Nyberger, Ron Wafer, and our the other 2 Wafer brothers, along with Jay Stratton and Travis Taylor. There's no greater joy or excitement for me to be able to share the stage and make some music with these guys. Aside from being just really cool human beings, everybody in the band is truly a world-class musician and songwriter. And anybody that's had the pleasure and the privilege of seeing Hitchhiker perform live get a little bit of a taste of that. And I'm really excited because we've got these 2 originals that are going to be completed very soon. We're just putting the final perfectionist touches on, finishing touches on both The Tether and I Bet They Rock and Roll. And there's a ballad that a great, you know, classic monster ballad, power ballad that Travis and I are composing together that is making some pretty good headway. And there's another original that Travis has written called "Kickin' and Screamin'." Is it, John? Which I'm
I have
really
not heard of
excited
this
for.
yet, so
So
Giving away all the secrets.
So yeah, all kinds of cool stuff are going to be coming on the horizon from Hitchhiker. And if I understand correctly, the that website that we're going to be sharing, it is the only official exclusive outlet to get official merchandise and swag from Hitchhiker. But I think we're going to be releasing the music on there as well, and hopefully we'll be able to make it available in like Apple Music and iTunes and places like that as well. But trust me, folks, you're in for something special when it finally drops, because it's going to be great. Guarantee it.
Yep. I accidentally was listening to that song earlier. So now, is it Tether or is it The Tether? So I'm a little torn on that because I've heard it
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah, I just call it Tether.
Yeah, I thought it was just
Um,
tether, but it might be
yeah,
the tether originally.
yeah.
I
The
don't
best
Now,
know.
one to ask.
Travis, when he says it says the tether, but he also adds the in front of a few words.
I think
Yeah,
it might have been the tether originally, but we all
yeah.
just say tether, so now I truly don't remember what it originally
Yeah.
was.
Well, folks, you'll find out when it releases, right? So
That's
stay
right.
tuned. That's the best thing in the world. We'll find out.
And hopefully in the not too distant future we can reunite the band to do another episode once that new music drops, because that would be a fun conversation to have once the music's out there and people get a chance to hear it. So that'd be fun. And speaking of music, folks, we for our next episode here on the Soul of the Unexplained, I'm excited to share that we're going to do another music themed episode of the Soul of the Unexplained. And joining us on our next episode will be American synth pop legend Anything Box. And Anything Box, for those of you that are into alternative music of the late 80s and early 90s or into synth pop, Anything Box is one of the biggest names out there. And the gentleman that's the genius behind this art machine known as Anything Box is a very dear friend of mine by the name of Mr. Claude Strilio. And he will be joining us next week, next episode, right, to talk to us about his great music career and what he does for inspiration when it comes to his art. And also, he's going to share some paranormal experience that he himself has had, and we'll probably spend some time talking about those, as well as his views on the UAP phenomena, the Three Eye Atlas, and all kinds of other good stuff. So that's coming up next, and we've got some even more exciting music things that'll be coming on after that as well. But all kinds of really fun episodes we have planned. We're going to get some more Skinwalker Ranch guys on before too long. And we've got some other really interesting folks and subject matter experts that'll be joining us on the podcast in the coming weeks and months. So lots to get excited about. And so, folks, if you enjoyed what we were discussing today, then please hit that subscribe button somewhere down there below. And please give us the like button, because we like likes. And please feel free to share with us your thoughts on any of the matters that we discussed today. Whether you agree with us or not, we encourage open and transparent discussion. And again, hopefully most of you can appreciate where we were coming from and some of our stronger opinions that we expressed today. But I would like to wrap up by simply my closing thoughts and remarks here would just be to, again, I cordially invite everybody out there that has not yet seen Age of Disclosure to please take the time to go out and either rent it or purchase it on Amazon Prime Video. It is well worth the investment. I guarantee you that. And, if you don't want to spend the money, then, I'd say wait maybe a month or two, and I'm sure the price might drop on it. And who knows, Amazon Prime may put it on there with a Prime membership to where you can view it for free as part of your Amazon Prime membership. Fingers crossed, who knows? But it is well worth the time and the investment to check it out. And I don't think you'll be disappointed in the slightest with what is presented in that documentary. And I would like to again offer up my sincerest thanks and gratitude to all of our subscribers, especially the new ones. Thank you so much. We hope you guys enjoy this. If there's any topics that we that you, the viewer or the subscriber, are passionate about, let us know in the comments, because we're totally open-minded and we are happy to take suggestions to heart. And maybe if there's a topic you'd like to learn about, like maybe Bigfoot or cryptids or ghosts and hauntings. Roger's a big fan of that kind of stuff. And we are still, folks, we're still preparing that upcoming episode regarding shadow beings. And that's going to be a good one. We're going to do some stuff on consciousness before too awful long. We're excited about that. And all kinds of great stuff is going to be coming. But please, if there's something that you would like us to engage in, feel free to let us know in those comments below. You can also hit us up on Facebook, and we do maintain a presence on Instagram. There's some great videos that Johnny's putting up there recently. So big shout out to anybody that follows us on Instagram and TikTok.
It's not quite Instagram. I don't think we
Yeah.
have an Instagram.
So you're right. It is TikTok.
It's
My
TikTok.
bad.
Yep.
It's
You can
TikTok,
find
so
us if you just search up Soul of the Unexplained. I don't remember if I put dots or not, but if you just type that into TikTok, I'm sure you'll find us. We have a few videos up there. Give us a follow over there, like our videos, comment, do all the fun things. And whether you like us, you hate us, let us know what you think below. Especially give us topics, because, clearly we don't have a lot going on between the ears here. We might need some help with some topics.
Yes, that's definitely the case for me, because not only was I dropped on my head multiple times when I was a kid, I bonked my head really hard recently. So I'm still trying to figure
I mean, I got
some
punched in
stuff
the
out.
face by a professional MMA fighter, and I smiled, so I'm obviously weird.
There you go. Right on. So closing thoughts and remarks. We'll start with you, John.
Nope. I echo everything you said. I appreciate all the new listeners and viewers, and also echo, if you haven't seen Age of Disclosure, go watch it.
Right on. Johnny, closing and thoughts and remarks from you.
All right, I'm gonna go into a 90-minute dissertation real quick. No, I'm just kidding. Watch the Age of Disclosure. Check out what we have to say about it, because we have some interesting takes, especially on our episode previously with Jeff Freeman and Mike Owen. Everyone that's a big fan of the Skinwalker Ranch, if you happen to be going on the Skinwalker Uncharted cruise, you might just see me there, possibly, along with some other fantastic people that you might know. And if you see me, do me a solid. Come say hi, ask for a picture or an autograph or something. Let's try to convince the crews that I'm actually important. That way they treat me really well and give me something, just free upgrades, something. I don't know. We're going to try that. Just do me a solid.
That would be awesome. If I were going on the cruise, I would definitely walk up to you and ask for a picture and and an autograph, because you're just that kind of a guy, Johnny. But alas, I will not be on the cruise.
It's fun to pretend to be a celebrity.
That's true.
That's right.
It's fun being
Alrighty,
celebrity
folks.
adjacent.
That's right, celebrity
Quite.
adjacent. Indeed. Folks, thanks again for tuning into The Soul of the Unexplained. And on behalf of myself, Mr. John Nyberger, and Johnny Stratton, and Mr. Rogelio Stokes, we will see you next time right here on The Soul of the Unexplained. See ya.